Welcome to SPL Mixing. My name is Daniel Jason Booth. Today what we're going to do is look at Silk Vocal. Silk combines the functions of a parametric EQ, de-esser, dynamic EQ, and vocal compressor. It's adaptive, allowing precise control over frequency attenuation, and best of all, if you're watching this on Black Friday, it is free. Now, before I go too far, I should actually mention I've been working on something for quite a while. It's going to be free for you as well as an extra bonus. I've called it a track tickler. We'll get to that later. Now I've got this awesome track, Finlay, same kind of life. I want to probably make the vocal just slightly more forward. So one way that we could get the vocal to sit forward more is to compress it more.
Here is my smile with your eyes, but your face says more. What do you want me for? Am I living my life in 84? My heart isn't ready. Tyrant and my friend. All these emotions and silly devotions, we all lead the same kind of life. Sometimes we're broken, the world cuts you open.
So we've got a gate here, very easy to use. Obviously it is gain reduction, so you'll see the gain reduction meters here will drop when you do that, which is only normal. If you're not using the gate, then you'll just see all of the gain reduction that happens via the compressor. Over here, you've got the ability to set the precision, which basically is a Q control for all the different frequencies that you're pulling out. Looking at different resonances like a soothe type of deal. Both the attack and the release is actually tied together. We've got a high pass filter set at 60 Hertz, and then we've got the delta so we can hear what it's removing. So if I go to the chorus, so that's what it's getting rid of. I didn't actually think my vocal sounded that bad, but it's definitely smoothing it out. Were I to slap just a normal compressor on there to try and bring the vocal forward, I would definitely start to run into issues with having to pull frequencies out that were exacerbated by that compressor. The beauty of this plugin is that it's doing all of that for you. They've thought to put a mix control in, which is awesome. Apart from that, you've got the ability to adjust the mid-range frequencies, and in this case I focused most of the efforts of the mid-range to this region here, which is between 1K and 4K, where a lot of the harshness can come into it. One other important thing to note is that if you don't want it to specifically just work on de-essing stuff, which is what this does here, you can change over to this control and this will focus on all of the treble frequencies. The other thing to note is that here you can pull down the threshold while you also pull down the output. So it's driving signal into it when you pull that down, and it's also then compensating on the output here by linking those two parameters together. There is also an option for a female voice. With a lot of plugins, if you go to extremes, you can really learn what something is and what something isn't. Maybe I'll go full smooth and just go full mid-range and see what it does.
All these emotions and silly devotions, we all lead the same kind of life.
definitely works better in smaller amounts. There is also a live version which I've not played around with, but the idea of this is that it's less taxing on the CPU. Moving on to something that I've been working on for quite a while. It's a 32 band track tickler. In essence, it's a dynamic EQ working with very many bands. It's great for any kind of side chaining that is frequency dependent, where you don't want the entire signal being ducked by another. I'll just use this as an example. I'm using a sidechain from the vocal as the input, and each of these are receiving that signal. It's going to react to each of those.
If you pull at the strings, it'll all come out. Here is an open floor.
So a similar sort of thing to the silk vocal, it's changing the cue size. All of the different bands that I've got in here are completely linked on the attacks. We've got attack, release for each of these. If you've got something that you want to get out of the way of another track, you want it to get out of the way pretty quickly. So I tend to set a fast attack. Doesn't always work, but you can always slow it down. And then I time the release to when the particular thing that I'm trying to get room for, in this case the vocal, so that when that's out of the way, it also releases the compression.
If you pull at the strings, it'll all come out. Here is an open floor. You smile with your eyes, but your face says more.
And it really depends on how it's affecting the other instrument. In this case, we can't hear the other instrument, which is just a synth. You can have a negative range or a positive range, and that allows you to emphasize or de-emphasize the same things that are happening in the vocal, and you can pull those frequencies out of the competing track to deal with masking. Threshold is self-explanatory. I tend to play around with this and the range to get a nice balance, and it always helps to get a visual to see how it's reacting using those controls. And separation, you probably want to stay between 350 and 430. That'll give you a nice smooth but separated frequencies between each of these different bands. When you've got lows in a signal that you don't want affected by what's coming through the sidechain, you can actually dial those out, and it will do that right up until the third rack. You've basically still got the top half of the spectrum from here on up, and you can affect that too if you like. You're basically turning down the mix control. There's a lot of work in fine-tuning these so that they all work the way that you expect. When you turn over to here, you open up the possibility to have mid or side. So you just solo the one that you want. So in this case, mid, in this case, side. And what that does is in the competing instrument, if you want it to just disappear those frequencies in the middle of the stereo field, I would then choose that one. If you wanted to disappear from the sides, I would choose the sides option. That's how it works. Let's have a listen to what it can do. So I've got this plate reverb here, and I've got an instance. I'll just reset that.
Here is my hand right now. If you pull at the strings, it'll all come out. Here is an open floor. You smile with your eyes, but your face says more.
You can also choose to have a positive range, which will push those same frequencies that are being detected in the side chain, in this case the vocal. It's pushing those frequencies even more into the plate. And let's flick over onto the middle and side options. Maybe we try it in the chorus.
All these emotions and silly devotions, we all lead the same kind of life.
And in context,
All these emotions and silly devotions, we all lead the same kind of life. Sometimes we're broken, the world cuts you open, so maybe I need you tonight.
And that could actually be a way to artificially widen the vocal. If you've got a fairly mono vocal, you could have this on a reverb or something like that, or even delays, and just have it push those frequencies into the sides and it will artificially widen it. If you'd like to get your hands on this, all you need to do is get into Studioverse and you can have a play around with that and you can access the track Tickler. All right, thanks for watching and happy mixing.